World Series is over. USC enters hell. BYU does BYU things. Utah lost, so that's nice. And the NBA in-season tournament starts today because we're a week in and we already have a tournament. Yeah.
Where's the salt command when I need it?
I'm not even salty.
Yeah, you're salty about Utah beating USC.
No? I mean, I am.
You always deny you're salty.
I have a very bitter complaint against Kyle Whittingham and why there needs to be a defensive delay a game because of some crap Kyle Whittingham pulled 2 weeks ago. But I digress because you're going to say, well, that's gamesmanship. Get used. Deal with it. But I will say this. I do think there needs to be a defensive delay a game because if that tactic spreads, like that's not. Are you
talking? So explain to me what you're talking about.
I noticed a clip last week where they're like, oh, this, they're because I guess for whatever reason, I think it was Fox College Football wants to stroke Utah for whatever reason, but they're like, look at the gamesmanship by Kyle Whittingham subbing in his biggest lineman. And it was just draining the play clock. And because in college football, they're like, oh, in football, they're like, oh, if the offense sub, the defense has a chance to sub in. So the refs, the offense can't move. And he makes the substitution and sends in his biggest guy. And the guy's half-assing it to the ball. And the play clock sounded like 8 seconds. So basically it's forcing USC to waste a timeout on that spot. And I'm like, that needs to be defensive delay game because the offense would get penalized for that when it's like, no, we're ready. They can substitute, but they have to be within that time limit too, which I'm like, if that's the case, then why don't we see Uranus like,
yeah, it's more just an adjustment to the rule.
I do think there needs to be some sort of adjustment because I don't think it's right. I don't think it's, and I know football has this weird thing too, where I was watching a video about the touchback rule in the NFL where it's like, it's like the one rule that benefits the defense. It's like literally the one rule that benefits the defense, them getting the ball at the 20. But I'm like, because you don't see that in the NFL where it's like an actual obvious like bleeding of the play clock to force a timeout from your opponent. I don't know if it's like a shaken hand sort of thing where it's like, hey, we don't do that. Because you probably would have very angry players and coaches being like, they're just draining the play clock.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's like a Whittingham like staple.
I think it happens more often than you think.
Well, I know, I remember players.
I agree that there probably could do with an adjustment to the rule.
I do remember because I remember that was one thing like they did against besides faking injuries back in the day against Oregon was stuff like that to like slow them down too. It was like one of the ways to prevent, to slow down Oregon's no huddle spread offense back in the day. Was stuff like that too. Which I'm sure, if they ever have to make an adjustment to the rule, they're going to look at that and be like, well, we can't really allow this to continue on.
Sure.
I mean, I know, the offense will sometimes do a late substitution to kind of catch them off guard and try to get them with too many men on the field or something. But it didn't look like that was the case because the ref was literally over the ball still. So.
Sure.
But Oregon lost.
Yeah, no, I get it. But I think they're trying to there needs to be definitely some balance to that rule because, I mean, that rule hasn't always existed, and it used to be that offenses would hurry up the play while the defense was trying to sub guys in. And
that was the big, yeah.
Sucker!
Yeah, that's what it was. It's to sort of prevent, it's to slow down, the more, because it's not really.
It's to make it so that the offense can't be subbing in, and then the defense has they can just sub in packages. Guys still getting off the field because the offense was okay, we're gonna sub in our wide receivers. They're right here. Oh, the defense is still subbing their two linebackers out. Oh my gosh,
which you don't see too often. They can't get on
with the play. It's
yeah, and it was just a lineman, so I'm not even sure who they subbed in, but I'm even if they were to sub in a tight end or something, it's like I said, it's almost sort of like, I get it's like, oh, it's the gamesmanship thing, and I'm sure Scott would say, well, that's gamesmanship. It's like there's gamesmanship, and then there's like
I'll say this,
abusiveness of a rule.
I'll say this: the rules are there to be rules.
No, I know.
I mean,
I don't have to like it.
One of the common videos that comes up in my on my like shorts pretty often on YouTube is the one with the I think it was I can't remember which player it was, but I think it was a Green Bay Packers player where they kicked, I think it was a kickoff. Well, it must have been a kickoff. They had a kickoff and the ball landed, but it landed like close to the sideline. So he let the ball stop on the ground, and then he got his feet out of bounds and touched the ball.
Yeah, it's a penalty. Yeah, that's what, 15 yards or something.
So it was kick out of bounds, illegal
kick out of bounds,
procedure,
15 yards.
kicking out of bounds sort of thing. And it's like, okay, that is not
in the spirit of, that's not in the spirit of the rule.
But what I will say is everybody who talks about that goes, like if you hear the commentators for that game, they're like, what a heads up, smart play. This is such a smart player, blah, blah, blah. It's like,
not really.
Yeah. So if the rules make it so that there's an abuse possible,
they're going to do it. I think
it's up to the teams to if they're able to
exploit it.
Yeah. Sorry, I can't think of the word.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they did it against Oregon. It might have been just against USC because I don't know if they were necessarily moving. They kind of do no huddle, but like I said, like if you're making a substitution like within 10 seconds, like, and they're not ready, like I think defensive delay a game 5 yards, just like the offensive one should be in play. But I don't necessarily think we'll see that rule change. So I don't think it happens too terribly often. But who knows? Like I said, Utah ultimately lost on Saturday. So are they out of it? Are they out of it now?
No. Nobody's out of it yet. There's still enough games to
no. Well,
Utah's lost. You're talking about the conference title, right? No, because if
Oregon, no, they are out of it.
If Oregon lost 2 games, so this is just if Utah won out, Washington lost 1 game, and Utah beat Washington, they'd be in it.
No, I'm looking at the standings right now here. So if it were to end right now, it'd be Washington and USC in the conference final game.
They're not out of it though. Their magic number isn't 0.
They're 3-2 in conference, and Oregon owns the tiebreaker. So for them to get in, you'd have to have Oregon.
It's unlikely.
Oregon State would have to lose to Oregon, which is likely. And then
here's my question.
USC.
How many games does Oregon have left?
How many games is Oregon? I think they'll have 3. So I'm sorry, 4.
Utah's 2 games behind, right? No, yeah. Utah's 2 games behind Washington at this point.
Technically,
given everybody playing an equal amount of games, they've got 2 more losses than Washington. They've got 1 more loss than Oregon.
I'll put it this way: they're one game.
The same amount of losses as Oregon State, I think.
And
Oregon State currently owns that tiebreaker. But if you ask yourself, how many games does Washington have left, and how many losses does Utah have, or even USC in this instance?
USC has
losses.
USC has. If USC wins out, I don't know if they'll necessarily
the conference title.
Yeah, if they win out, they'll be the home team in the conference conference final in the title game.
Technically, Washington could lose out. USC could lose out.
That's a lot of losing outs.
They don't need USC. They don't need. No. I know, but you are asking: is Utah out of it? No. Is it a long shot?
Absolutely, because I think I will say this:
last year I thought Utah was out of it when they lost to
Oregon.
Was it
Oregon again?
Oregon that they lost to? And
they lost to Oregon.
I thought that was it because that was their third conference loss.
They had
two or three.
They had two.
Utah,
wait, I can look.
I'm looking it up right now.
No, they only had one conference loss. They only had the one.
No, they had two conference losses.
Oh, wait, it's 21-22. What the hell? What?
They lost to UCLA and then they lost to Oregon.
Why is it? Oh, and there it is.
It seemed like Washington was going to have like some of the stuff, but they had the weird, the Pac-12 had the weird tiebreaker rules, and it allowed
Oregon. It allowed Utah to get in because it goes by, how did it work? Because it was like Oregon, because Oregon beat Utah. Wait, how did that work? Because Oregon beat Utah.
Yeah, but Oregon lost to
Washington?
Somebody that Utah beat.
Because that doesn't make sense, because you'd think it would go to head-to-head matchups. So it'd be like technic. So in that regard, so like Utah beat Oregon, because that's how it is in the standings. So realistically, it should have been Washington, USC. What was the tie? Wait,
no, there was a weird tiebreaker rules. I'm trying to. Because it was a 3-way tiebreaker, so it wasn't just like a head-to-head tiebreaker.
Because Washington, Oregon, and Utah were all 7-2 in conference.
Utah won the. Yeah, it was weird. So somebody has to explain it.
Where was it? Let's see. Let's see if there's Pac-12.
Okay, so Pac-12 article on it.
If two teams are tied for first place and both teams will participate in the championship game, the winner head-to-head will be the number one team. Win percent. Oh, that's why. Win percentage against the next highest place common opponent in the standings based on record overall play within the conference. Proceeding through the standings when arriving another group of teams tied. So it goes to like this weird win percentage, which is so multiple teams in the event of a tie between
a tie between more than two teams, head to head is the first one, but because there's 3, you can't just use head to head, because I think it was Utah, Washington, and Oregon.
Yeah,
was what they had.
I think the way the standings were listed,
they had beaten one of the two teams.
I think they beat. I think it was that
Utah. So it was kind of like
I think it was the weird
all
thing.
Beating each other.
Yeah,
and so win percentage against all common conference opponents,
which is
and Utah had that.
Like I made the comment last year and I said Utah just somehow manages to weasel their way in every year and think they're better than everyone, when it's like you got in because of this odd technicality, and they kind of.
So I mean, and that's one of the did it again. I try to like. Because you know me, I like Utah okay enough, especially when they're playing USC.
Yeah, your hatred for USC is odd, and you're like, I grew up in SoCal.
It's odd.
I should say
it's odd. I grew up a BYU fan in Southern California.
I should say this.
All USC and UCLA fans.
I should say this.
Treating me like a little baby.
No one did anything
Why
to you.
Do you think? Why do you think I went to root for against USC when everybody was like,
no one gave you crap. That's the part I don't understand. Who gave you crap?
Nobody in my friend group, not you or Jake.
Yeah, I was gonna say none of us cared.
I'm talking people at school.
Oh,
I'm talking
who cares?
People at church.
Oh,
it was everybody that was a USC fan.
So you're bitter from random strangers being like,
hey, it's the same thing that led to me being an Angels fan and not a Dodgers fan, because for years I grew up as an Angels and Dodgers fan, but then all the Dodgers fans were treating me like a little baby for being Angels and Dodgers fan.
God, what an odd rationale.
So I chose the Angels because Angels fans didn't give a rat's butt.
What an odd rationale. All right, whatever. The USC plays
for wanting to root against the people that were treating me like trash for liking a certain team.
No one did, because USC's heyday ended in 2007.
You're not me.
USC's reign ended in 2007. Since then, it's been trashed until one Rose Bowl win in 2017, and then trash again. So I don't know who was talking trash or why you still hold this deep-seated hatred 20 years later. It's beyond me.
Hey! I've been a Lakers fan my whole life. Even
you should be a Clippers fan by your.
Still talk trash.
You should be a Lakers
Clippers.
fan. Yeah. By the way, did you see the box score in the Battle for LA? How Russell had 24 points or something, and I'm like, well, he ain't getting that. He's not getting that no more with Harden over there. By the way, this was late Tuesday night. We'll just segue into that because this is funny to me. The Lakers getting PJ Tucker and James Harden.
You just want to avoid the Utah conversation.
It's a tire conversation.
Oh, hold on. I never did finish my thought.
It's just a tire conversation.
You kind of cut me off. Let me just finish the thought, and then we can move on to the James Harden stuff because you're right, it is kind of hilarious. But so I like Utah. What was I going on with that one? Hold on.
You like Utah.
What were we discussing at that point? Basically, I was trying to say I like Utah, but some of their fans have been kind of funny in that regard, in terms of
because I said they kind of sink in there. Yeah.
12, well,
they're crushed in the Big 12.
A lot of them. There's a lot of the fans are going, "Oh, we're gonna run the Big 12." Blah 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 blah. And I even commented. So there's a guy you and I have talked about on Twitter.
Such a
the Utah Stats and Analysis. That guy, he keeps saying that.
No, you're not. You're going to be.
And I responded.
You're going to be.
I responded to one of his tweets with. I responded to. Hold on, I'll actually pull it up.
Even though they're losing Texas and Oklahoma, you still have Oklahoma State, Iowa State,
and they're basing it on the fact
State.
that teams are down this year. Big 12 teams have been down for a lot of this year.
It's not as deep as it's not. You're not going to have the depth, but they're adding. Because it's Utah's. I think it's Utah and the two Arizona teams, and both Arizona teams will put up a fight. But I'm it's one of those things you almost lost to Baylor. In all intents and purposes, Utah should have lost to Baylor. So it's not your direct competition with the rivalry should have been a loss for you. But I think they needlessly forget that one.
Oh, my point that I said to him was. So his tweet was according to 24/7 composite, Utah goes from being the 5th most talented team in the Pac-12 to the close 2nd most talented team in the Big 12.
Behind who?
And he said Utah is going to run the Big 12. I think it was Baylor. In terms of I
said, I think
Utah is supposed to be the 2nd talent, but
the whole thing
my response to all that was.
Careful.
I said, you guys are really taking a page out of USC's book with entering a new conference, huh? I really preferred Utah's, shucks, we're hard workers, to this USC mentality.
Oh, I'm sure he loved that.
It's what made me like you guys and hate USC growing up.
I'm sure he loved that comment.
He didn't actually respond, I don't think.
The whole thing is, the funny part is, though, if you ask USC fans about the Big Ten, it's yeah, we're excited to go to the Big Ten, but it's also sort of God, the football's gonna suck.
I mean, it's probably gonna take you guys a second to get
it. All right. Well, if we're
good enough, right?
Are we? Nah. Are they entering is USC in the Big Ten West next year? Or are they in the East? Because if they're in the West, the only real competition is Iowa, and I'm pretty sure it's USC's entering the West.
Well, that would make sense.
Yeah, if it's the Big Ten West, they're gonna destroy.
But yeah, I've been trying to advise Utah fans subtly on Twitter. Be hey guys, just maintain your usual. Hey, we're gonna play hard, and I think we're gonna win. But let's have fun competing. Instead, they're Big 12 is so much worse than the Pac 12. We're going to run this and it's going to suck. It's like, guys, be better.
I can't find anything that says it. It just says they're, oh, you know what it is? I remember now. I think they're ditching the conferences, and it's just like the Big Ten. I think.
Oh, you guys, they're going the way of the Pac-12.
Yeah, and I hate it.
No divisions and just the top 2 teams.
I think so.
That's what the Big 12 is doing as well.
I think it is. Let me double check.
Big 12 released their scheduling
because they released their schedule. Because they released their schedule, and in the Big Ten, they play Michigan. Michigan, that's a fucking loss. Wisconsin, Minnesota, Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers, Washington, Nebraska, and UCLA, and then Notre Dame will be the last game for them.
Do you want to hear what BYU's schedule is next year?
What?
They'll start with their first 2 weeks are the only ones where they know what day the game is going to be played. But the first 3 games they have is going to be Southern Illinois, the Southern Illinois Salukis.
That's a name.
Wyoming, but they'll be playing in Laramie, so that's always a tough place to play. And then they'll be playing the newly minted Power 5 team in SMU. And then they'll play for their conference schedule. This is in no particular order. They're playing Arizona State in Tempe, at Baylor. They'll be hosting Arizona, Houston, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, and then they'll be playing at UCF and at Utah.
Yeah, so I can confirm. Yeah, they're getting rid of the East and West format in 24.
I honestly think it's smart because it ends up being your 2 best teams.
Yeah, it works better.
And then what works better is if your 2 best teams are ranked. Well, it's not as important now that you're moving to a 12-team.
Yeah, but the whole thing is
it's like, but it's kind of like you're not gonna like so.
You don't end up in the scenario like last year where it's like, I mean, it's still gonna be the same thing. Where it's like it'll be the winner of Michigan, Ohio State versus like Iowa for the Big Ten the Big Ten title.
Well, yeah. You don't end up with an Ohio State versus Purdue Big Ten championship,
which you're gonna have like, again.
Which is and then that game also becomes kind of a
playoff preview
trap game.
Yeah.
It becomes kind of a trap game because you. Basically, all it is if you win, you're in the college football playoff.
Yep.
But if you lose, you are out of the college football playoff, and you might even be out of the New Year's Six. So it's like now they avoid that because Ohio State ends up probably playing Michigan instead of
you had the chance of playing Michigan. You had the chance of playing Michigan, Penn, like your big teams in there are on the one division or in the one side. Yeah. Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, because it's out of the West. You have your leading team right now is Iowa, and it's like you don't want to watch like anytime Iowa plays in prime time, it's just torture. Speaking of torture, we can segue back to this. James Harden's the Clippers, which I think's hilarious. Where in his presser he said, "I'm not a system player. I am the system." So I assume Russ or Paul George will be gone. Which is
taken out of context, but then when I heard it in context, I was
it sounds worse.
It still sounds bad.
Yeah, it's sort of like
it still sounds like he's saying like I will determine how well we play.
Yeah. Like, so which is odd.
Like originally that quote sounds like he's saying you will cater to me. But then after you hear it, it's like he's saying I can play however, but you have to let me play whatever I determine I'm going to play.
Yeah, that's why, like I said, that's why I'm sort of like, I don't understand how this will work. I don't think it's going to work because you have to think either Russ is going to get traded or waived again, or Paul George will get traded or waived again. It's just going to be a matter of well, how do you want to formulate this? And truthfully, I think Paul George is going to get the short end of the stick.
For it to work, that would be a mistake in my opinion. For it to work, they need to get rid of Russ.
That'd be my first guess, but I don't know if anyone's going to take him because
you could start Paul George because James Harden's not coming off the bench. He doesn't want to. But
you can have Russ off the bench.
You could, well, no. But what I'm saying is you could start Kawhi, Paul George, and James Harden.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually what you do is you rotate James Harden out earlier than you do the other two. And then when the other two come out, you put him back in. You basically start him and then use him as a second unit type guy for the rest of the game. But if you have Russell Westbrook, who's currently filling that role, then you've got two guys who, to be effective, need the ball to run through their hands.
Yeah.
The reason Russell Westbrook didn't work as a Laker was because the ball needed to run through LeBron's hands.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of goes back to kind of what like the original thing was, where it's almost like you want to have as many stars as possible so that like when weird injuries happen or Kawhi kind of pulls a Kawhi and he's like, oh, you know what? I think I hurt my knee or something. And he doesn't say anything. You're not.
Originally when people gave him crap for that, when people originally gave Kawhi crap for that, I was like, oh, that's unfair. I think we're too hard on athletes sometimes. That was kind of my mentality. But now with all the times he's been injured, I'm just sitting here like, no, he needs to play the game.
I think that's part of the reason why you're getting the new rules of like load management.
Yeah, sure.
Quote unquote. But I don't see it working. I don't like Russ is going to get traded or just let go again. Because there's no way you can like it's when I made the comment with CJ, it's like, this is hilarious. He's like, do they know there's only one ball? Because now you have three guys. You have three and a half guys that need the ball in their hands to like work. Like you're gonna implode, and it's because the funny part is it's literally because they're just ring chasing at this point. Like they feel like they need to like outdo the Lakers, who 2 out of 3 years either won a title or got to the Western Conference Finals, and the Clippers haven't done jack diddly bupkis in that time frame.
Well, yeah. Do you remember when the Clippers got
since getting those two?
Clippers fans declared.
Oh, they assumed they were going to win the title.
We're running LA. We're going to have the title. Like,
well, whole thing, all of us for like.
It was the whole Steve Ballmer meme all over again.
Well, that was the whole thing. Is like, even when they got him, I remember talking like, working with people who knew basketball way more than I do. Even I'm like, how that doesn't seem like it's going to work. It just didn't. It didn't really feel like it was. It didn't then, and it doesn't now. And that was what 5 years. That was what 2018 to 2019.
I think it was 2019.
And it just didn't feel like it worked.
But and what's funny about all that was I remember when that happened. I thought, good for him for choosing what he wants to do, right? Like, but I thought, and then it obviously is coming from me being biased as a Lakers. Yeah,
2018, 2019 into
going into the 2020 season.
Yeah, pre-COVID. Pre-COVID.
Yeah, it was just pre-COVID. It was that season would be the COVID season, right? Or was it 2018 going into 2019?
I'm trying to look at the games.
Let me double check.
I'm trying to look at the games because they didn't play a full season, did they? Because it's 57 games and 52 games. Well, when did the Lakers win the title? Because the basketball's odd.
Okay, he signed in the summer of 2019. So yeah, I was going into the 2019-2020 season.
So his first year is the COVID year? No way.
Yep.
Okay. Wow, that's
his
weird.
First year.
He came. Oh, that's right. He came a year late. That's right. No, I knew that. That's why I was like, wait, when did the Lakers win the title? Because I was just gonna look at when LeBron won his title in LA. Because that was the bubble year, and it was 1920. That's why I was like, oh wait a minute, that'll get me my answer. Yep.
So,
that answers that.
Oh, hold on. I need to turn on my light.
So there's that. So, but like I said, I don't think it's gonna work.
Yeah.
I don't know. The whole thing is, like I said, I don't know who's going to necessarily pick up Russ at this point.
Fair.
Maybe Memphis. No, not even Memphis, who has no wins. Like, they're not even going to want him.
You know, it's funny because, again, when the Clippers signed Kawhi, it was like, oh my gosh, we're going to win championships, right? But now, fast forward to 2023, even if you assume that you get the best seasons that you possibly can out of Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook, they're not even the top team for the NBA Finals.
No.
Like, let's go, hold on, Vegas odds.
Well, I know they jumped now.
Okay, let's see. Vegas odds for the NBA 2024 championship.
I mean, they are.
So yeah, it's right now. It is the Celtics and Bucks are favored to win it all.
Celtics, Bucks, Nuggets
at plus 400. Nuggets, Suns at plus 550. Clippers at plus 1300. Warriors at plus 1400, and Lakers at plus 1600.
So they're favored over the Lakers, but I don't. But
only barely.
Yeah, but I think a lot of this has to do with, like, I think they still rate Harden very highly for whatever reason, but I don't. Like I said, I think reality and practice are two very different things. And this won't work. Whereas, like, the Lakers with LeBron always start slow, so like the Lakers will go up. It's sort of like the Heat, where it's like, I mean, I think the Heat are gonna suck, to be honest with you, but with this in-season tournament that starts tonight as we're recording this, that we'll sort of see how that goes. But at the end of the day, it's sort of just like, personally. I think the in-season tournament's stupid, in my opinion. Because we're doing it, like 5 games in? How dumb.
Cord fell out.
How dumb would that be? How dumb is that? Pretty dumb. Thanks for asking.
But I'm trying to find the odds. But in, like, 2020, for example, so when he first signed,
it wasn't that. Like, everyone thought, well, 2020 was that had to have been the highest, because I think they went to the
Lakers. The Lakers were the title favorites, but the Clippers were only a little bit behind them.
But they got eliminated in the semifinals. This is how
much things have changed since the summer of 2019. The Lakers were plus 240 odds. The Bucks plus 260. Clippers plus 320. Then it dropped to Houston Rockets at plus 1600s. And the Celtics was like, these are teams where you're like, nope, that team's not winning the finals this year.
So what's funny is, if you look at the NBA playoffs, and the only reason I remember this, I thought it was funny, the clip in 2020, the Clippers almost lost to the Mavericks in round 1, if I recall. Right? Like, that series was.
I think so.
Does this have the games on it? I think, like, that series went 7 games, and it was like they almost lost, if I recall correctly. Oh wait, let me see. No, sorry, it went 6 games. I thought it went 7 for some reason. Oh, the Denver series went 7. That's right. They lost to They got upset by Denver. Almost got upset by Dallas, because I think Dallas had a game where they came back from, like, some ridiculous point total. That's right. Because they were the 2 seed.
The Clippers and Dallas went to 6, though. That was still a surprise.
They went 6, and then they lost to Denver in 7.
7.
And then we know Lakers took.
Beat Denver in 5.
Yeah. Gentlemen swept them. And
then they actually swept us in 2022.
Yeah. So.
Or 2023, sorry.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So we'll see. I don't.
But no, that's what I'm saying is, like, so it's just funny, though, that the Clippers are doing this and thinking, now we're the favorites on paper. It's like, nope, even the odds makers are like, yeah, that bumped you a little bit, but not a whole lot.
Yeah, definitely not a whole lot.
So, anywho, but yeah, no, it's not gonna work. That's my prediction right here. I'll swallow or what's the swallow my words or eat crow or whatever the popular thing is for saying I'll admit to my losses. So
yeah.
Don't mind me, just checking my work emails really quick.
Okay.
Making sure. It's supposed to be some big news from where
But the World Series is over. It was awful, boring.
Yeah, I was rooting for Arizona to win that, and after they won game 2, I thought,
it sort of felt like the momentum swing, but it didn't.
Well, because they not only they almost won game 1, and then they won game 2. They should have won game 1. I think like, that oh my gosh, Arizona's just gonna go out and win this in 5, and then the next thing you knew, the Rangers.
I think them losing game 1 kind of ruined it. I think ultimately.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. It maybe took some of the wind out of their sails.
Because if they would have done that, they would have been back in Arizona up 2-0. So realistically, they would have been they would have gone back to Texas up 3-2. Right? Yeah, 3-2. Because if they won game, they would have gone up 3-2. So I don't think it one game necessarily sways it one way or the other, but it definitely doesn't. I can't think of the right word. Help it.
It doesn't help your momentum.
Yeah.
Because if they had won game 1 and then played the way they did in game 2, then instead of going into game 3 kind of being like, well, okay, we at least took 1-1, they would have been like, we're up 2-0. Suddenly your camera went away.
No, it disconnected it. So World Series sucked. Good on Texas for winning, but I mean, maybe they'll redo the format, but I'll probably discuss more of that on my podcast. So NFL. Oh, last week's the standings for our pick'em. I won.
How badly did I do?
You and CJ both went 2-1, I think, or 1-2.
Which was it?
I'm trying. Okay, because CJ had Atlanta versus Tennessee. Tennessee won. You guys both had. He had KC over Denver. KC lost. Detroit won. So he was 2-1. You were KC lost, Philadelphia lost, and Detroit won. So you were 1-2. Jacksonville won, Baltimore won, and Detroit won. So I was 3-0. Congratulations.
Very nice. Sorry, what did you say? I was 1-2?
Yeah.
Man. I'm not on my game.
It doesn't help when you get upset by Washington. Oh, wait, no, Washington won. Wait, Washington lost. Wait, who won that game? I was 3-0, so I think I won either way.
It doesn't help when I choose Denver to lose and then they mysteriously
win. Yeah.
KC. I mean, I'm not upset about it. I don't care. I mean, I care about winning this, but I don't care if me. Oh no, you were 1.
Sorry, you were 2. They did, or Washington did, or Philadelphia did win. So you were. It doesn't matter, but I was
3. So I was 2-1, and you were 3-0.
Yes. And then we have an international game this week.
Yeah, but do you know what I'm really excited for? What? The Minnesota Vikings game.
Oh wait, is Hill starting? Not Dobbs?
Jaron Hall.
Yeah, I can't wait for that.
Jaron Hall,
that's
BYU,
not going to end well.
Great.
That's not ending well.
That's not ending well, you don't think?
I don't think so. Who are they playing? Who's Minnesota playing?
They're playing Atlanta.
Maybe because Atlanta's scared to pass, so maybe.
No, I think you're going to be surprised. Jaron Hall's going to...
I know Jaron Hall's not necessarily bad.
Jaron Hall is a... What I think a lot of teams who were so excited about Zach Wilson, maybe it was because Zach Wilson did so poorly that they were afraid. But anybody who was so, the only thing Hall doesn't have that Zach has is Zach Wilson has an explosive arm. When he wants to throw the ball deep, he can throw the ball deep better than nearly anybody in the league.
Yeah,
but Jaron Hall doesn't have that, but Jaron Hall is more accurate on most of his throws compared to Zach Wilson, and he's also better at escaping the pocket. Because I was talking to my wife about this, about their time at BYU. Zach Wilson, when he was at BYU, when he would scramble out wide, to the left or to the right. Jaron Hall's scrambling is more suitable to like how blocking schemes are in the NFL. He would escape the pocket going up the middle, and then he would dart out to whatever hole he could find.
Kind of like how Will Levis does it.
Yeah, so it's a lot more of a, like, he can drop back, and if the pocket starts to collapse in from the side, which is where it usually collapses, he can break up the middle and at least get you 2 or 3 yards. And I mean, I think it's going to be beneficial to them in the long run. But maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you're right. And
he didn't look good on Sunday, but I mean that was mainly because he kind of
had one fumble.
Yeah, he got thrown in, but I don't know.
And the play the offensive play scheme was not designed for him.
Yeah, no, I'm saying he got thrown in there, and it's like they didn't lose, so it's not like it was bad for him.
Well, yeah, and he still completed 3 or 4 passes.
Yeah, and
when they could have just put him in and said, "Here, hand the ball off 10 times, and we'll finish the game."
Yeah.
So
there's that.
It wasn't too bad.
All right, you ready to pick these games?
Oh yeah. Are you gonna put the wheel over me?
Yeah, it's gonna be
over us, I should say.
Yep, it's over us. All right, here we go. Let's do it. I guess I'll start this week. All right, here we go. Spin it.
Remember, it can't be Monday Night Football.
Yeah. My Colts, who they play? I think they play.
So as long as it's not the Chargers or Jets, your Colts are playing the Panthers. The line is Colts by 2.5.
I'll take the Colts. Thanks. All right.
And you take him to cover. Well, I mean, you can't take him not to cover at 2.5, more or less.
It's basically win. Steelers, who played on Thursday and won.
We should start picking this Thursday game out. I get my wish! I
guess you're taking...
I was kind of hoping to pick this game.
You're taking Minnesota, I'm guessing, right?
Line. So it's got the Falcons by 3.5. I'll take the Vikings.
Plus 3.5.
I'm a believer in Jaron Hall. I think it's going to surprise me. I picked him up in all of my fantasy leagues.
Start him, coward.
Because I am starting in one league. I am starting in one league, but I picked him up in all leagues because if he does show up and is like amazing, like Puka status, then I already have him and I don't have to worry about you guys all snaking him.
I'm not going to snake him.
I should have the BYU guy. Yeah, but what if he goes out and has a...
I had Patrick Mahomes. I have Patrick Mahomes. What if he goes out and
has a 30-point fantasy game?
I have Patrick Mahomes.
Great this year. Neither has Kelsey, for that matter, and yet I was willing to trade Cup for him.
They both have done very well, and both of them did well to beat your butt.
Well, I would say... They did well in like 2 weeks. Normally,
Saints play the Bears. I'm taking the Saints.
In past years, they used to be such a sure fantasy play. This year,
we have to remember too. They literally have. There's no one else that he can throw to, and they didn't really address that issue.
Yeah, well,
because it's like, who else is he going to throw to?
They should have drafted Puka.
I mean, I guess, yeah.
Nobody knew until now, basically, that Puka was going to be the next Cooper Cup. So,
I mean, that's scheme, but
well, it's partially scheme, partially.
You say really he's like, routes. Oh, he can run routes.
His route running is amazing, so he's always open.
Steelers. All right, I'm just getting rid of that score. We're getting rid of the Steelers and the Titans. If the Titans come up, get rid of them. Miami against KC.
That's KC by 2.
So you taking KC?
Oh, this is me?
KC, I got 1.5. So I got who you want to win.
Oh, who is your pick after I picked the Vikings?
I took New Orleans over Chicago.
Oh, okay. Oh, you got an easy one.
Yeah.
Man. Then again, I think I said the same thing last week when I got to pick the Chiefs.
Yeah. So who are you taking in Miami, KC? So winner, because it's a 1.5 point spread.
I'm going to take the Dolphins.
All right. And then Monday.
Honestly,
night, Chargers, Jets.
Honestly, though, by the way, just before we move on, I think the Dolphins have a real shot at going to the Super Bowl this year.
That is the least enticing take I've ever heard.
Like, it's not a hot take. It's just kind of a
they're Super Bowl contenders. They're Super Bowl contenders. Like you said, they're going to go to Super Bowl.
But going into this year, I think if I had said that, it would have been a hot take. Now I've seen them enough. I'm like,
I don't even think even going into the season, it was a hot take. I think going
into the season, it would have been like Miami. I mean, they'll probably make the playoffs.
No. But out of the AFC, they were probably going into the season, it was probably KC to win it. KC the favorite, Miami, the Jets, and I think that's basically it. I don't think there's like another team in the AFC.
So your Monday night pick, Chargers, Jets.
Chargers.
I'm torn. I'm torn because the Chargers are one of my teams, but the Jets have Zach Wilson, which should probably dissuade me from picking the Jets. Although Zach Wilson hasn't been horrible, he's just been not good. You know what? I'm going to take the bold pick. I'm going to pick the Jets over the Chargers.
What a BYU
Zach Wilson's going to pick apart that terrible Chargers defense.
I mean, that just bad like of a defense, Dallas is it?
Did. It's not good. I mean, like, if you pull up, and plus the Jets have a good defense. If you pull up, at least their passing defense, because like I looked up, in our league, you know how like it gives you like a matchup indicator where like it's green and stuff. I looked up Zach Wilson.
Oh, it's probably like green.
The Chargers are the worst pass defense.
All right. Well,
and Zach Wilson and slinging the ball around the field. No, I'm
not saying he can't. All right. All that being said, another fun week. We'll see who wins this week in the pick'em. Anything last thoughts from you, Bryce? What's going on Bryce and BYU?
BYU takes on West Virginia this weekend. I'm making a bold claim. Well, okay, so in my podcast, I didn't make a Super Bowl claim for the preview. I ended up, I think, projecting BYU by 7. Which is funny because the line has West Virginia by 13.5, even with the news that Slovis. So Slovis is out with a supposed injury. And so they're going with their backup, who is the number 1 JUCO guy going last year.
Yeah.
And he's more Zach Wilson-esque. He's not as talented or as fast or as much of a presence in terms of his passing ability as Zach Wilson was in college, but he's seems to be pretty good. So, but so this is before that. I think BYU is going to put some stuff together. I actually told my wife I think BYU ends up winning by like 10 or more. It's going to be like Texas Tech, where the line had Texas Tech winning, but then BYU just turned it over on its head.
Yep.
So
that's good there.
So you'll see how I react to either BYU winning or losing in the most recent episode of the podcast.
Gotcha.
And we'll talk about Retzlaff and how good or bad he was. So
gotcha. Good stuff. So with all that being said, I'm Spects. That's Bryce, and we'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye.
Bye.